You know that person who just doesn't really have close people anymore? Who cut off the friend group, drifted from family, ended relationships the moment they got complicated, and genuinely feels fine about it. That person might be you. And the peace you feel, the quiet, the simplicity, the not having to explain yourself to anyone, that's real. But here's what nobody tells you about that feeling. It's not proof of anything. People who are genuinely free feel it, and people whose system learn to go quiet instead of close, they feel it too. The exact same exhale, the exact same relief. You've probably been doing this for a while, long enough that it doesn't feel like a pattern anymore. It just feels like who you are. Think about the last close friendship you had. At some point, it started asking more of you, more availability, more vulnerability, more showing up. And somewhere in that process, you started pulling back. The replies got slower, the plans got vaguer, and eventually it just quietly ended. No fight, no moment to point to, just distance and then more distance. But it's not just friendships. Think about your family. How much do they actually know about your life right now? Not the surface stuff, the real stuff. For a lot of people watching this, the honest answer is not much. And that didn't happen because your family is toxic. It happened gradually over years because every time a conversation got too close to something real, you found a way to redirect it. Or think about the last time a colleague tried to take things beyond work, invited you somewhere, started asking personal questions, and you were polite, you were friendly, but you made sure it stayed exactly where it was, professional, contained, safe. Same pattern, different context, every single time. There's a specific moment where this pattern almost always appears, and once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Call it the threshold pattern. The moment any relationship gets close enough to actually require something real from you, that's when the distance begins. Not after someone hurts you, not after something goes wrong, right at the threshold of real closeness. And you've done this so many times in so many relationships that the leaving stopped feeling like a decision. It just started feeling like you. Most people who relate to this have spent years being told something is fundamentally wrong with how they connect to others, that they're cold, unavailable, incapable of real intimacy. The truth is more specific than that and more workable. So why does this keep happening? The easy answer is right there, and it's not wrong. You're protecting yourself. You've been in situations where closeness led to pain. You learned that the more someone knew about you, the more they had to use against you. So you got selective. You stopped giving people the access they needed to hurt you. That's real, and it genuinely kept you safe for a long time. But here's what's incomplete about it. If this pattern were purely about protection from harmful people, it would activate when someone shows you harmful behavior. It would fire when something actually goes wrong. But that's not always what happens, is it? Because sometimes the person you pulled away from wasn't harmful at all. They were good. They were safe. They actually liked you. And the distance grew anyway. The excuses came anyway. The exit happened anyway. Which means something more specific is running underneath. Something the "I'm just protecting myself" explanation doesn't fully account for. The real mechanism is more precise and a little uncomfortable to see. But once you see it, the pattern never looks the same again.
Here's what's actually happening. Imagine a smoke alarm that once saved your life in a real fire. Of course you trust it. It worked when it mattered most. But years later, it goes off every time you make toast. The alarm isn't broken. It isn't overreacting. It's just calibrated to a level of threat that no longer matches the kitchen you're standing in. Research on early stress consistently shows that nervous systems shaped in unpredictable environments develop a genuinely sophisticated threat detection skill, more sensitive, faster, better at reading subtle signals that something might go wrong. That's not a flaw. That's your system doing exactly what it was built to do. But that same system also starts producing false positives. Someone getting closer, needing more from you, knowing more about you, starts to feel like the beginning of a threat, even when it isn't, even when the person is safe. So when closeness increases past a certain threshold, the alarm fires, not because something went wrong, because your system was trained in an environment where closeness and danger often arrived together, and it learned to treat one as a signal for the other. People who grew up in environments that were emotionally overwhelming, where being known felt unpredictable, where vulnerability had a cost, often experience this response as relief, because compared to the chronic alertness they grew up carrying, quiet feels like calm, distance feels like safety. The skill is real, the sensitivity is real, the calibration is just outdated, and outdated calibration is a completely different problem from being broken, because calibration can be updated. For some people, it's not that closeness feels threatening, it's that it feels like disappearing. Different experience, same root. The system never learned that you can be fully known by someone and still remain yourself. And here's the strange part. People with this pattern often think they're extremely independent, when in reality, your nervous system is making the decision before you are. Now here's what makes this so hard to see from the inside. Because of that miscalibration, two completely different things end up producing one identical feeling. Think of two roads. Same starting point, same scenery for the first mile, same direction, and then they diverge, so gradually, so quietly, that you wouldn't know from the start that they lead somewhere completely different. Road 1, you genuinely evaluated the relationship. Something about it was harmful, chronically draining, or fundamentally misaligned with who you are. You felt grounded when you made the decision. The relief that followed was clean, the ease that comes from clarity, from being honest with yourself about what you need. Road 2, the relationship was getting closer. Vulnerability was increasing. Your smoke alarm fired. And from that place, already flat, already quiet, you withdrew. And the relief that followed felt exactly the same as Road 1. Same behavior, same silence, same exhale. Two completely different things producing one identical feeling. Think of it like two musicians playing the same note, one string vibrating cleanly, the other wound too tight for years, holding the note through tension rather than resonance. From inside your own chest in that moment, you can't tell the difference either. And here's what makes this the hardest thing to see. The relief cannot tell you which road you're on. It shows up either way, which means your feelings, as trustworthy as they are for so many things, cannot be the measure here. Something else has to be. Sit with this before I ask the question that matters. For a long time, I thought feeling fine was proof I'd made the right call, that the silence meant clarity, that I'd simply gotten better at knowing what I needed. It took a while, and a specific kind of loneliness, to understand that fine and free are not the same state, that you can spend years feeling settled and still be standing behind glass, watching your own life at a careful distance. The pattern is quiet enough that it doesn't announce itself. It just slowly becomes the architecture of your life. So here's the real question.
Can you actually let the right people in? Not whether you have people around you, whether there is anyone, even one person who genuinely knows you, who you've let past the layer that manages the distance, whose closeness doesn't trip the alarm. Let that land. Because if the answer is yes, even for one person, that's real. That's the difference between a boundary you chose and a pattern that's been choosing for you. If the answer is no, that's not a verdict. That's information. The most useful information you've had about this pattern in a long time. What looked like a personality might be a smoke alarm going off in a kitchen that isn't on fire. What felt like freedom might be managed distance, just far enough away that you can't feel it pulling anymore. You weren't broken for building this. You were intelligent. Your system did exactly what it needed to do. The pattern kept you functioning. It did its job. Now you can see it, and seeing it is where everything changes. Here's how you start. The first, look at the pattern of when. Not just who you've cut off, but when. Did the distance happen after someone showed a clear, repeated pattern of harm, or did it happen right as intimacy increased, right as someone started knowing you better? The smoke alarm fires at closeness, not only at danger.
If you look back and see the exits clustering at the threshold of deeper connection, that's your system showing you exactly where its calibration is set. That's the pattern identifying itself. There's no judgment here. You're gathering information about your own system, which is the only way to start working with it instead of from inside it. The second, and this is the one that changes how you read your entire history, remember the sequence in your body. This is the most precise diagnostic tool there is for this pattern. Not the decision itself, not how you felt after, the hours before. Were you grounded and clear and then you decided? Or were you already flat, already quiet, already numb, and then the decision arrived, and then the relief came? The sequence is the tell. Clarity leading to a decision is the system running normally, but if the quiet came first, if you were already somewhere else before you made the call, that's the alarm that already fired. The decision didn't come from you. It came from the shutdown. Both feel like peace afterward. Only the sequence reveals which one it was. This isn't about judging the choices you made. It's about understanding what state you were making them from. Because once you see the sequence clearly, once you can trace it backwards, the pattern loses the ability to impersonate a decision. The third, and this one takes the most honesty, ask whether the door can actually open. Not whether you have people in your life, whether there is anyone who genuinely knows you, someone whose presence actually settles you, someone you've let past the management layer even once, even a little. Even one person counts, because if the door can open for one person, the alarm can learn the difference between fire and toast. The calibration can be updated. This isn't about surrounding yourself with people. It's just about whether closeness is still possible at all. Because if it is, even sometimes, that's everything. So here's what you know now that you didn't know when this started. You saw the mechanism, not just the behavior, the threshold pattern, the way a miscalibrated system fires at intimacy instead of harm, the way that response produces a feeling so close to genuine clarity that it rarely gets questioned. That pattern wasn't a flaw. It was an intelligent response to an environment that asked too much of you, probably before you had the tools to handle it. It kept you functioning. It did its job. But now you've seen it from the outside, and that changes what's possible. If you like videos that explain the hidden mechanisms behind human behavior, subscribe. Your subscribing to the channel motivates us to make more videos like this. And before you go, you'll still do this pattern sometimes. You'll feel the distance starting before you even notice you're creating it. That's okay. Seeing it is the first step to choosing differently. You don't need to have this figured out today. Just hold the question. The smoke alarm did its job, but now you know the difference between fire and toast. The right people, the ones who are actually safe, will still be there when you're ready to let them a little closer. This is the Better Version Project. I'll see you in the next video.